With both Disney and Marvel now panicking over not just Ironheart, but also the Fantastic Four, which is set to debut on July 25th. Meanwhile, you got Ironheart debuting on June 24th. We just have a couple of weeks to go until that debuts. But one thing about the Fantastic Four is that, yes, we do know that there is rising criticism going against this movie based on everything that has been said by Pedro Pascal and his politics and how he's pushing his activism into the movie itself and how that's beginning to backfire. But there's also a lot of other contributors out there. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, Disney and Marvel, they really haven't been doing all that well in the past, like 3 years, 4 years, give or take, when it comes down to the majority of either Disney Plus projects or even the movies at that. The biggest one of all that was a failure was the Marvels back in November of 2023. That was a big one. And then following that now, of course, you have Ironheart, which is going to be right on par with the Acolyte series by Lucasfilm/Star Wars and what they did back in June of 2024. Now, with Pedro Pascal refusing to actually dial back on his politics, we have more personalities, we have more actors coming forward about their views on Disney, including actor Mel Gibson. Now, one thing about Mel Gibson is that we all know that he tells it like it is. He's very much against the overall Disney agenda, the overall Disney messaging, and among other actors out there as well, they've come out forward as well about Disney and their current status of pushing the typical agenda in order to please their top 3 shareholders, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So let's get down to the details. Now, with both the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios concerned over the performance of Fantastic Four, especially after Pedro's politics that created backlash, one major development going on now involves more to do with Mel Gibson once again calling out Pedro Pascal and now the Fantastic Four film. Gibson delivered the following. Well, hey man, I think when you are running a company like Disney or Marvel, and you have this film coming out, The Fantastic Four, please tell me why you would hire someone or anybody that is an activist, that holds no boundaries with his politics. Look, I'm an American patriot, I love this country, and politics should never be pressed on anybody, but the minute I heard that gender politics were forced into a superhero film, in this case with this one, I just could not wrap my head around why Disney and Marvel would think that would be a great idea for both older audiences and younger audiences. It's most certainly not a great way to attract potential new customers, that's for sure. And look, everyone knows my politics and where I stand and my views on things, but I don't go around forcing people to agree with my views. In fact, I welcome differing views. It's what makes us human beings, you know? So I think this Pedro guy is out of control, and we all saw what he did with the series The Last of Us Season 2, and we are seeing something similar happening here with the Fantastic Four. Look, messaging and agenda don't belong in superhero films. They just don't. People want to escape from all the chaos in this world and their own troubles in life to have some fun for like, what, 2 or 3 hours in the theater? And it's messaging like this that's driving, of course, the art of cinema into the ground. It's why films aren't in theaters as long anymore. Because, well, people aren't going to the theaters as much anymore or seeing movies 2 or 3 times anymore. So guys, let me just stop here for one moment. That is correct. The fact that we have less and less people going to the theaters and actually having less people seeing movies 2, 3, heck even 4 times anymore, that's pretty much a thing of the past. That's also why box office numbers aren't quite as high as they should be for even the best movies out there. So you have this major shift, you have people staying at home more, watching movies on streaming, or waiting for them to come out on streaming, or just flat out not watching those movies at all. And so you only have a few box office hits here and there. You have a few Oppenheimers, you have a few Barbies out there, you know, when it comes to box office success points. And whether or not, you know, Superman or Fantastic Four is going to be on that level, we'll have to wait and see. But so far, there's a lot of criticism working against this movie. There's a lot of, you know, fans out there, particularly Marvel fans, that are really just not in support of Pedro Pascal, and they hold a lot of Pedro fatigue. But moving onwards here, one thing about Mel Gibson I must say is that he's very well aware that he's had his own mistakes before in the past. He embraced it, he owned it, and that's exactly why he, you know, pushed forward and why he is where he is today. Now, he goes on to continue, that's just a fact. When you have a film like Fantastic Four, Maybe Disney and Marvel should have thought twice about hiring Mr. Pascal. And look, I don't have anything against the guy personally, I don't know him, but he takes his politics way too far and he holds some obvious character flaws. People are tired of actors like him, actors that turn their careers into a political train. It's just not right. It's shame on the studios that enable that, because it's not just hurting the theater chains, it's also driving away fans and it's also destroying themselves. Again, another great point by Gibson is the fact that this overall action by Disney and studios like Disney, they've literally destroyed a lot of theater chains out there. We know that theater chains like AMC, Regal, you name it, they've been lacking. And a lot of people just don't go to the movie theaters anymore. That's just a fact. I know a lot of people that once went to the movie theaters all the time, like every single Friday, every single Saturday. That was like 6 years ago. And obviously ever since, 2020, you've seen this major shift when it came to who goes to the theater and who doesn't go to the theater. So he goes on to conclude, I hold no sympathy for Disney or Marvel, or even HBO for that matter, and what they have done over the years. Look, I'm an actor, but I refuse to mix my political views whenever I'm performing anything or promoting anything. I would just never. I want to see this industry thrive. I want to see it go back to the state of normalcy, to where people really want to go to the theaters again, and be excited. And look, I don't know if Fantastic Four will be a box office hit or not. I'm not predicting anything here. But the proof is in the pudding that fans are exhausted. They just are. Of films like this and actors like Pedro. Again, we know that Mel has always been very open about Hollywood, about the flaws in Hollywood in, the modern day right now, and how it's all, politically driven nonsense. Sure, we've seen a decrease in that for obvious reasons ever since November of 2024, ever since Trump came into office and abolished things like DEI and ESG and all that other, nonsense that were actually shoehorned into studios. But you still have a resistance. You still have Disney and HBO up to their own shenanigans, where they're even pulling their own strategy right now. Let's put out some non-agenda driven projects and let those make a lot of money. This way we can fund other projects that are going to be agenda driven. That is the actual strategy, by the way. We covered this like a week and a half ago about what Bob Iger's doing. That's a very real thing, and that's basically their own way of pleasing shareholders like BlackRock to keep them in play. So overall, I think that Gibson really makes a lot of points, and I think that you're going to have, more actors coming forward about what's been going on with the whole Harry Potter series and how they did race swapping there for the character Snape, and what they're doing now with the Fantastic Four and driving away from source material and doing all these different things. And Pedro's politics getting in the way is also not helping, mind you. That's another thing. A lot of people are very tired of Pedro Pascal. He's in almost everything at this point. He's in Star Wars, he's in Marvel, he's in The Last of Us, he's in comedy movies, action movies. And he's going to be in other franchises that are very well known. He's in talks with other studios to become a part of other major franchises. So people are just exhausted, like Mel said, and I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.